Hello everyone and welcome back to the Little Quilter. Today we're going to be working on the McCalls 7875 quilted robe, and I'm super excited because we are making progress today. I'm going to be working on cutting out the Bimberg fabric, and as you can see, it's not iron straight. I hope this doesn't sort of bite me in the bottom, but what I am doing in order to have this basically be able to even cut this fabric, and I'm hoping that this works, but it's called a two-basted method is basically what it is. So I have got Swedish tracing paper, which is super awesome tracing paper, and I will definitely try to use that for cutting out fabric patterns, especially patterns that I really like, because it's a lot more, it's way stronger than just regular tracing paper. So I put that together, then I have spray basted on top. So I've used the 505 spray baster there, sprayed that onto the tracing paper, laid down the Bimberg fabric. Now I need to spray my actual paper pattern here, and I'm going to spray the paper pattern and then lay that, I'm going to wait like 30 seconds and then lay that out on top of the actual Bimberg fabric so that it's stuck together. I have here the largest cutting mat that I could find. So I got a couple new cutting mats. This was the biggest one, but I got it specifically because I needed a big place to cut this here, and that was the only way to do it. So it's very large. I think it would be one that most people would probably put on their table, but that's the only table I have, and it's not going to work. So, and even though the treadmill is covered with quilting stuff right now, we are not getting rid of that. So we're on the floor, and we'll put this up somewhere later. Maybe I can make like a hook or something for it. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get that spray basted on there. We're going to try cutting this. I'm really nervous because if this doesn't work, it kind of ruins my entire plan. And that's obviously a little nerve-wracking. Okay, I have got it cut off on this one end, and there's the bottom of the Swedish paper, the Bimberg fabric in the center, and then we've got the grain line and everything up here. I think I'm going to go ahead and make the cuts here. I think, oh, I can't decide if I want to do that or not. I think I am. I think I'm going to go ahead and make the cuts for all of the little notches. Because really on this piece, really there aren't any on that area here. It's really just this and this. So I'm going to go ahead and make those notches, and that way then I can kind of peel this off and see. I'm really afraid that it's going to be terrible, but I can peel it off, and I've got to go ahead and do my stay stitching 1/8 of an inch around. Okay, I got it off. It's definitely a little scary doing that because, I mean, I did kind of have to rip it pretty hard, and we've already got a little bit of fraying happening there, so that's why we're going to go ahead and stay stitch it. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know. We're gonna stay stitch it and see where we're at. That's what we're gonna do now. I am going to use the Brother CS7000X to do this. It is still a little sticky. It's not sticky at all on this side. But this side is definitely still a little sticky, so okay, let's go ahead and do that. This is not going well. So I was definitely getting some bunching, and so then I thought, well, let me try. I should have left it on the Swedish tracing paper, but now I just can't get it to sit back on there the right way. So I'm super sad about that. This fabric is such a pain. How do people do this with like such slippery fabric? It is such a pain. It was definitely bunching, and I just did not feel like I was getting a good line. And then I thought, well, I could switch to a zigzag stitch is one of the things set, and look at that. That's terrible. It's terrible. So this piece may just be trash. Which is sad. Maybe I can use it for something else because it's still a large piece, so maybe I could cut one of the sleeves out of it and maybe do that. So maybe I'll look at trying to do that, and that way I can at least salvage this large piece of Bimberg fabric, and I can stay stitch around that and actually make a sleeve. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let me do that. Okay, I was able to do the bodice, so I cut the bodice out. I am going to, and actually, so just as a heads up here, I decided to do a full cut bodice. So I traced this one side and then flipped it over and traced the other side so that I have this full bodice back, is what it is, I believe. Yeah, this is the bodice back. So I have the full back that is going to be done, and it's sandwiched between two layers. I'm going to take this top layer off, and we're going to go ahead and stay stitch around it, and then we are going to, and I'm going to switch back to my first stitch here. So I'm going to switch back to the single stitch and go all the way around 1/8 of an inch in, and then I will be able to keep working, and hopefully this time I'll be able to actually know what I'm doing here. I am going to go ahead and cut out I'm trying to decide if I want to cut out the things yet or not, and I can't decide yet. I think I'm going to wait, and I'm going to do my stay stitch, and then I can cut into them and do that afterwards. So let me peel this off and hope that it doesn't come off the wrong way. Okay, that came off fairly well, but I didn't spray any more spray basting on it. I just used what was already on there. So here is what it looks like. And then this is the top. So this is the lining on the inside of it, as we talked about before. And hopefully this will be better. So far, so good. I like this better. I don't know why I didn't leave it on there. That was a bad plan. But I was thinking I don't want to have to rip this off. I thought that would be worse to rip it off. Well, we're going to find out if it's worse. Also, I've realized I'm not going to have enough of my Swedish tracing paper to mark these things. So I am going to have to go back to my regular tracing paper, but that's fine because this seems like such a waste to use as a way to cut it, but also we can see, is there actually a difference between them using the tracing paper on top of the tracing paper or not? And also, is it easier to tear it away? Because this is a lot stronger, so I do have a fear about tearing it. So let me go ahead and stick. Okay, here's what I decided to do. I lined everything up with this back on it, and then flipped it over, and I have drawn the little markings onto here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Didn't do these little circles. So I'll mark those as well. But I'm gonna leave it all together until I'm ready to actually stitch this. I just think that might be safer to do, and then I can work on tearing. I don't want to tear it. I'm afraid to tear it. Okay, I'm gonna put this, and then we're gonna work on cutting another one. But I guess I'll go get my other tracing paper so that I can make sure we get it done right. So. Okay, so the good news here is that we have done a sleeve, a bodice, and I have got over here both the back and front, 1, 2, and 3 skirts. So I think both of the backs and one of the fronts. And the bad news is this is all that I have left to finish that skirt bottom and a sleeve. I'm pretty terrified that they're not going to fit. So, we're going to have to lay this out and see what we can do. Well, try as we might, it's not going to happen. I'm definitely out of fabric with one sleeve to go. And, I mean, some of it's because obviously I messed up. I had to cut an extra collar. I messed up on the first skirt. So, it's definitely my own fault that this has happened. I was so close though. Look how close I was. So here is the last skirt. These things are huge. Here is the sleeve. Just so little, and it would work. And there's just no way to fit it. I mean, it's just depressing, isn't it now? So close, and yet so far away. So I'm just going to cut the skirt and order some more fabric. At least I don't have to order that much fabric. I'm so close to having all of it. And then that way I can at least work on putting the skirt together. Some of the sleeves is frustrating. And also, cutting this has been terrible. Oh my gosh, I do not like this fabric at all. And I don't know if I will ever do something that's this big. I mean, I think if you had like a small shirt or something like that with just this lining, and this is just cutting it. I haven't even started to really sew it together. So I'm very nervous. I have done stay stitching around every single one. As soon as I've cut it, I've stay stitched it. So, and then I've got to do the quilted portion for the cuffs and the collars so that it'll match the diamonds. And, but it's getting, like, it's really late. I've stayed up late doing this. I kind of just got in a zone of, like, I just wanted to get all these pieces cut so I could start actually putting this thing together. You know, finishing all of the quilted parts made me super excited, and so this is a bit of a bummer to be this close to being done and one sleeve away from the fabric. On another note, we had mentioned earlier the difference between using like the tracing paper versus the Swedish paper. I still haven't ripped any of them off, and I am still also super terrified about that because, well, I don't have any more fabric to use. So very, very nervous about that it's gonna like fray like nobody's business. But I am going to say that I like the Swedish paper better than the tracing paper. It just kind of lays a little bit more, I guess because it's a similar kind of textured fabric. The tracing paper, once you start like spreading it out and spraying it, it kind of want to crinkles a little bit. So I do think it's definitely a more expensive way to go, because the Swedish paper was definitely more expensive. If any of you guys know somewhere cheap to get that, please let me know. I had a hard time finding it, even though I kind of looked for it a lot, but I finally found it, I think on Amazon. So I can link that down below, but it was still like more expensive than I wanted to pay. So if you guys know of a less expensive place to get it, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and cut this guy out and probably call it a night for tonight because, yeah, it's like super late. So we're going to get it done. All right, everybody, even though we haven't got all of the pieces cut, we've got that one sleeve left to go and we're waiting for the Bimberg fabric to come in for that, we can still make some progress on this project. And what we're going to start with is actually the cuffs and the collar. So as you remember, I have the Bimberg fabric onto the interface lining, and I have got the actual cuffs themselves cut as well. And what we're going to do is do an actual, and I have batting as well cut, we're going to actually do the quilting for the cuffs and the sleeves. So what I wanted this to do was to match, right? So this, sort of set this up here for you, just as an idea, right? So here's going to be our little quilt sandwich here where we'll have the laundry basket fabrics, quilting batting, 100% cotton quilt batting, the interfaced lined Bimberg pink champagne fabric. And I want this to match. So as we remember, the quilted robe itself is this diamond pattern. And so I want the Bimberg fabric, which is going to be showing on the outside, to have that mirrored diamond pattern. Now, I'm not going to be able to get it exactly right, and I think that's fine because a rolled cuff never looks like, it's not right on point, so that's okay. But I think the easiest way to do this is actually to use this one piece. So I think this is either a sleeve or something, but I've already got it quilted, as you can see here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this on here so that I can make sure I get the right size of the diamonds. That's what I want to make sure I have. So once I have that drawn on, then I can make my little quilt sandwich and go ahead and stitch on this. Now, what am I going to use to do that? The best thing to use on Bimberg fabric would be chalk. And I do have some Taylor's chalk, that's what it's called. I do have some Taylor's chalk, but I also have these. So I bought these little chalk pencils back whenever I was trying to do the design on the front of the quilt for doing the pantograph quilting. And I purchased these, but they are very, very fine chalk, and as you can see, several of them broke. And that was the big issue, was they were just too dainty to put on the machine and drive around. So I held on to them though, and I think these are going to work perfect to draw the lines because it is colored, so it'll be easy to see as long as I don't use this pink one, and then it goes away. So we're not using any sort of water soluble marker, no high friction pen, nothing like that, just chalk on the Bimberg fabric so that it'll come out and there's no worry of staining it at all. So, and it's nice that I have these colors so it can show up really, really well. I think it'll show up even better than if I was using like the white one. So let's go ahead and jump into that and we'll get it done. Okay, so that worked out really, really well. And now I have got all of the Bimberg fabric lined, and I had to go over it twice with the chalk just so that it would stand out really well, but I have no worries that it's not going to come out. The next part, I'm going to start with the cuffs, I think, just because they're smaller. And I am going to switch to the Brother machine here, and we're going to use it to do the stitching. I want to make sure that when I line these up, I'm lining up with these notches that I've made. So you can see there's a notch in the center, there's one on this side, and there's one on this side. But we do have to put our batting between it. And of course, just like every other quilting project, I'm doing this with an oversized batting. So we'll have to sort of make sure that we've got everything lined up. And this is the, there we go. That'll work. I was going to say, this is the downside. Now I've got, I really love this machine. I really do love this machine. I really am sad that I don't have a longer table because I feel like I've lost my room where I usually like kind of finesse things and set things out. And when I use this machine now, it's sitting on top of it, so I can't really use it as I would like to. Okay, so we've got the bottom, so we need this top part. So we're going to match up where these are, which is going to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to feel for it on the bottom. Let me go ahead and just put a little pin in it, just so we know that we got it. You want to be careful with the Bimberg fabric because I don't want it to tear. Oh, see, and that's good that we did that because this side of the batting is not overlapping far enough. I need to move this over. I don't know how he managed to escape out of there. Okay. There we go. Now that's better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and back to pin this right here. And I'm just going right at the V. And then I'm going to come over here and go right under that V. So hopefully we should be pretty well lined up. And then we can sort of line the rest of this up. Okay. There we go. I wanted to flatten this little ridge out right here. I felt like it was getting a little bit of a bump there. Hopefully we've got this all lined up. So, and we've got it facing in the right direction. So the next time we see this side, we're going to have our quilted lines. And we're going to be using the Brother CS7000 and X machine with the Microtex needle. And I've still got this bobbin and we've got the bobbin of Aurifil 7410. So let's go ahead and do some quilting. Alright, so we got all of these quilted, and I'm going to tell you the best way to do this was spray basting. So the first one I didn't, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is the first one, and then this is the second one, and you can just see how much flatter that is compared. I'm not taking this out, right? We're going to let it ride like this, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a mistake, but I'm still going to quilt around the seams here, so I think it'll be fine. But it just, I don't know why I didn't think to spray base this, but it worked so much better to put down that. And then once I had one side spray basted, I just cut the edges around, so I got a nice crisp seam around it, so I was able to line everything up way, way, way easier and press it down. And then I was able to get this beautiful, as you can see here, quilted right at the same size, and again for along this here collar piece right here. So now we've got all of that done. I think it's time to start putting some stuff together, and I do need to cut my pieces down. So I've got all of my quilt tops done, but I haven't actually cut anything down. And so I think I'm going to start with the bodice and do my bodice first, just because I want to make sure everything lines up, and I feel like looking out the front is going to be a lot more noticeable than the skirt. Well, I sat down to work on the cuffs and to look at them, and I realized that I have completely messed up. Not only on the cuffs, but also the collars. And I have to make a really hard decision now. So I was looking at the cuffs, and I was going to work on sewing these together, and I realized that I was supposed to leave at least the top fabric. I was supposed to leave these fabrics separate. Yes, I wanted to quilt them and should have quilted them, but they should have been done separately. Instead, I now have I have quilted both of my pieces together, which is not bad, but is bad at the same time. Because I was supposed to take this quilted cuff and sew these edges together, and then take the other side of this, do the same thing, put them together, sew around so that you can flip it over and you have a covered seam rather than raw edges all the way around. Okay, see, this is the part of a quilter trying to make something else. So my options at this point are to unpick all of this. I do think I have enough fabric to recut this, so I could potentially just recut everything because I have this fabric coming as well, and just basically redo this and leave this as whatever. I could unpick all of the quilting that I have done, separate them, and then re-stitch over it again separately, so this top and this bottom, which seems like a lot of work and makes me very sad that I would have to unpick all of this, but that may be, I don't know, I can't decide. I feel like it's wasteful to not use this, but at the same time, how frustrating is it that I have to unpick all of this? And I'm also a little bit worried about what's going to happen with the Bimberg fabric, if it's going to withstand all of that just poking and prodding. I'm not sure. So I might try unpicking it, which is very sad. I don't know if I want to try unpicking it right now. I might try and do something else, and then maybe, gosh, that is just so sad. So I might try and do something else, and then what I can do is, I mean, I've already ordered the Bimberg fabric to do the sleeve, so maybe I could see how much is left and work on that. This one's kind of not attached here. This one might be easy to save. Maybe I could unpick this one. I don't know. Okay. Maybe we put these aside. Oh, I'm so sad. I was going to do that. And we're going to do something else. So, let me figure out what that is. Okay, so, obsessed about it as I was, I decided to pick it all out. I picked it all out, people. Well, of only the cuffs. I'll do the collars another day, but it wasn't too bad. I still got my lines for here that I can stitch over it, and it's not too terrible, right? Then I have got the inner part of the cuffs. I'm going to mark this. The first one I did mark already. And I mean, I had the lines to go over, so that wasn't very difficult to do. And on a nice turn of events, that means they'll match up perfectly, which is good. So now I can do a round 2 of the cuffs. I swear one day I'm going to get this project done. I feel like I always take like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It's so frustrating, but I also love this project so much I want it to turn out right. So it's worth the time. It's worth the effort. There's a black speck on my Denberg fabric. I don't know why. We're going to ignore it. I don't know where it came from, but it's okay. We're going to do this. Okay. Stitching. Here we go. Okay, so we have restitched these and we have restitched these. So we have our lines there. And then I gave them a little press. They're a little rough for the wear here, but the good part about sewing is for clothing is the seam line is 5/8 of an inch. So it's going to completely encompass all of this easily. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to match them up. Now, to make the cuffs, we're going to take it, match up these little parts right here on the little notches that we've done, and sew a 5/8 inch seam down this. So I'm going to do that for all of these, and then we will have part of the cuff done and be able to move to the next. Alright, you guys, so now I have 4 tubes here. If we rotate this inside, we've got this tube right here, and we have got this tube right here. Now, well, the next part is going to be sewing these together, and I do believe they'll need to be inside out for that purpose. The biggest thing I have to remember here is which one, well, that has, I need to stitch that again. This one's kind of coming out. I didn't stay stitch that. We'll do that. Which one needs to go in which direction so that I make sure that when I rotate these, they flip out the right way. So I'm going to review that just to make sure that I do it right so I don't have to pick these out. So let me check on that. Okay, you guys, so I have a plan, but of course we have a bit of a snafu. So the plan is to do these cuffs like we're supposed to, and I'm going to be doing the rolled cuff. We're also going to be doing the piping, and we are going to make it so that the quilted part is the part that's going to roll up, and this part, this outer shell part, is going to be sort of, you know, the underside, right? It'll be under this area here, right? So now, in order to do that, we need to have piping, and we do, but this is my piping. And honestly, when I first bought it, I thought, yes, this will be perfect, but it actually has a bit of a gold look to it. And if I pull out this, you can really see that gold look, which I guess it was a champagne color. Sorry, that's really hard to do. It was a champagne color, but I need more of a pink champagne color. So I've ordered a different piping, and that's kind of put me on a hold here for this because I need to, basically my steps are going to be to take the unnotched in and to put the piping on all around this edge. Then we're going to take this guy, put him over the top of it, right? So now this guy is technically inside. Let's imagine is inside. And then we're going to stitch around that. We will then flip it over. In the pattern, they recommend understitching. I'm not going to be understitching because we have super thick quilted fabric here, and it's just going to be too bulky. once I have it sort of flipped over, I might do an 1/8 of an inch stitch around just below the piping just to give it another little stay stitch, and that might look kind of nice. But for now, that's what the plan is. And I just don't think this is going to work, which I'm sad because it is really pretty and hopefully I'll be able to use it for something else that needs piping, but it's just, I don't think it's the right color. Very antique-y, very pretty, especially with like her fabrics. I think it's gorgeous, but when we're contrasting it with this pink champagne color, I think it's just not quite right. So we are going to set the cuffs aside. At least we've sewn something, and we're going to move on to the next part. Okay, so here we have got the bodice right here, and you can see I've still got this Swedish tracing paper on the back. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and sew this dart here. So this is on the lining fabric that we're doing it. And we're just going to basically, on the back here, you have these little lines. And you're essentially just going to match these up. So you're going to match up the little circle lines here on either side. And then we are going to stitch right along that line. So right along this line here, and right along that line all the way to the edge. We're actually going to go even past that edge. We don't want to stop. We don't want to back stitch on that because it'll just make it really bulky. And so you want to leave really long thread tails that we can then tie off to that. So this is the dart right here. And again, this is the backing, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and sew that. And we've got two, so I've got a left and a right that need to be sewn. So let's jump into it. All right, so we're going to sew this from the outside, this fatter part, to the thinner part. I'm just going to put a couple clips on there just to hold everything really well as we go through this. Check my line here. I'm going to double check here, and on this machine you can center the needle to the left, the right, or to the middle. And so I just want to double check that I have the right stitch so that I have it in the middle so that I can line everything up really nicely and not worry about things sort of shifting there. Alright, we're just going to sew straight through, staying on our line. Okay, we can do our needle up, pull this guy out, go ahead and cut here, take this out. And now we have got that stitch. So when you open it from the front here, we have this really nice dart, which looks really good and lined up really nicely. So that is kind of how that looks from the perspective of a dart, I guess. I've never really done one. And then when we take this part off on the back, so I'm going to go ahead and take off this part of the fabric, this Swedish tracing paper here. Just gotta figure out how I did this before, because obviously we don't want the Swedish tracing paper to stay on there forever. There we go. And it kind of tears very similar to a not quite as easy as the, what's that paper you do? The paper piecing. Not quite as easy as paper piecing. It is a little bit more, it's definitely stronger on this side. And I mean, I'm sure there are probably people that think this is a dumb way to do this and I should just mark it, but I'm just nervous with this fabric. It's just so hard to sew with, and having something to stabilize it honestly just seems so much easier to me than trying to draw on this and make sure it doesn't get distorted. I also feel like the other one came off easier than that. I don't know, maybe I did a shorter stitch. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and get this the rest of the way off. Okay. Alright, here's our dart. That one definitely looks better than my first one. This is my first one. I don't think I went far enough, honestly. I have this weird dimple. Let me see. I think it'll be, it's a lining. It's okay. Okay, so now we're going to be working on the bodice back and the bodice front. Now that we've got our dart sewn, we're going to line up all of the notches that are here. Now, I'm not doing the arm seams at this point, right, because we still want those to be open, but we can do the shoulder and we can do the side seams and sew those together. Now, I did get a little bit confused. I had to really like kind of think through the process here when we're sewing this. So I almost sewed this backwards, and I think I have it the right way. So what I had to think about was which way, because obviously if I flipped this, it could fit over here, but we have to remember that this is going to be our seam. So we're going to sew along this right here, which is going to be the seam line, and that's going to be what's pressed open. So this is going to be the inside, and this on here is going to be the outside. And so we want our nice seam dart that we've already made on the inside, and we want this on the outside. So let's go ahead and sew that, and then we should be ready to move to the other side, and we might actually have a piece finished. Okay, you guys, I have part of it completed. It's sewed on there. We still have the lining on here, so I definitely still need to take this part off of it. But let's flip it over. I did just 5/8 inch seam allowances. I didn't do anything special because since this is the lining, then it should cover it. We should be okay. So this is what we are looking at here, which actually I think looks pretty cool. All right, so if we put this on, all right, well, at least I've actually made something that is fitting. I don't really know how loose or not loose it should be, so I am hoping that my fit is right, but, you know, I think that looks really cool. And we actually made something. We actually made something. It's a very crinkly something that we've made from all of the paper in there. I'm gonna have to start working on taking that out. I'm sure that won't be very fun. I'm gonna leave it until I really have to take it out because like I said, I'm very nervous about this Bimberg fabric being so loosey-goosey on me and having issues with it. So, but isn't that nice? That's lovely. I do wonder whenever we do the lining, I wonder if it's flipped out actually. And this is, yeah, I bet it is for the lining. This will actually be on the inside and that will be on the outside. That, I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically the outside will be touching. But just for fitting purposes, this would be, you know, how I would put it on if I were just making this out of the Bimberg fabric. So, you know, and I think that we're going to be okay. I do worry about the armholes here a little bit. You know what? We're going to make it and see what happens, and I hope that it works out. I've never made anything before, so the fact that I've made it this far now for me is super exciting. I'm going to stop here for the moment and we'll keep making progress. This is the McCalls 7875 robe. I hope that you guys are enjoying the video. We've at least accomplished an actual part of the robe, and we're going to have to do the rest of the quilted robe. I'm going to start cutting those pieces probably next time so I can start piecing them. I think maybe piecing them in a similar time frame, so doing the bodice, and then kind of working from there might be a good idea for me, just so that I can kind of remember the steps that I'm doing and continue to improve upon them, and B, also I can just sort of plan it out. I think planning out the bodice first and seeing where those diamonds sit and then moving on to the bottom of the quilted robe would be better. So yeah, we're making progress, and I think it's super exciting finally to actually see a portion of it starting to come together. So as always, I hope that you guys are enjoying this. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all the YouTube things, and we will see you guys next time on The Little Quilter. Have a great day.